Beforehand, it is just Cthulhu in his Spell Mage, which I think is a really interesting choice. Maybe just the thought that maybe Seiko thought there'll be more players, say, bringing Control Warrior, for example.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because I looked at some of these lineups going into it and was like, well, if Seiko has Mage with Cthulhu in it, is he perhaps then leaving Priest up? And he's just saying, okay, well, then whenever they queue their Priest, I will just take that loss if necessary, and then queue into it with my Cthulhu Mage on the other side, right? And that should be a very, very favorable matchup for me. But doesn't seem to be the case, and he's just going to kick it off here in the opening, leading out with his Mage. You saw the Cthulhu getting shuffled into the deck, but he does of that all-important Incanter's Flow.
Yep, not looking too bad for Seiko on the bottom there. Frenetic doesn't, for me at least, doesn't really have any of the power cards in his opening hand, especially against Mage. Like I-Beam feels kind of stranded right now. Same with Immolation Aura. Of course, Mage does create minions, but not really ones you're expecting Immolation Aura to get through, and not really ones you're expecting I-Beam to kill. There's a small thing of, well, Mini Mage, but will Seiko pick a Mini Mage versus Demon Hunter? Probably not.
Just picking up Lab Partner for efficiency here, drops it for 0, picks up 2 cards from the Cram session, already making that mana back from the Incanter's Flow.
Oh, Frenetic can draw off the top now. Just continue with the cycle. Again, he could I-Beam this 1-3, but does it really matter? I don't think so.
Not overly relevant at this point in time, I would say. Very congested looking hand already, though, here.
Right. I mean, maybe at this point, like, is there a consideration for just coining out the Fell Screamer?
He had 2 mana, could coin it out, right?
Oh, right, sorry, yeah. Okay.
Reasonable draw as long as he finds something fairly playable here. Okay, yeah, Arcanologist plus Swan Thief is reasonable if he doesn't find a better option.
Okay, yeah, could just play Varden.
Varden on curve, yep.
That's good. Spend your mana. Evocation. I wouldn't have hated Brain Freeze there just because it's a good card and Demon Hunter does play minions that it'll die to as kind of throwaway minions, right?
By saying no natural secret in the deck there for Seiko, none of that like one of Netherwind Portal, one of Ice Barrier that we see in some lists instead. That's probably where his Cthulhu spot is, admittedly. So no draw off the Arcanologist.
I think more of Cthulhu seems fine here. I'm not really sure what the payoff would be for anything else, unless he like Devolving Missiled Brain Freeze Evocation.
Ugh. Pretty awkward minion to deal with.
Oh, he is going to go for that plan. Wow.
Yeah. Trying to find more card draw, I would imagine. First and foremost, doesn't hit it. But yeah, I think that's the motivation here, right? Just look for a Arcane Intellect or a Cram session or something just to get some cycle going.
Time runs out on me.
Paul's not bad though. I think one thing you're expecting Demon Hunter to do all the time is cast a spell, right? And it's additional minions, so definitely not a terrible outcome. One of the more creative plays there when you could have just more of Cthulhu'd it away. This hand feels a bit weird. It's just like weapon into Thanos.
What I'm looking at, yeah. It's a mirror entity check first. And he's going to swing face to play around the Rig Fair game as well, which I like. Well, it plays around both, I suppose, Rig Fair game and the Oasis ally, just by shipping damage to face, generally against Unknown Secret. If you're not testing for the spell secrets in the turn, it's generally best to hit face because you play around the most secrets that way. Get news if it's Ice Barrier as well.
And arguably the more punishing ones, at least in this instance, right? Like, Seiko drawing cards is pretty bad.
Yeah.
The 3/6 pretty bad, and then if it was Ice Barrier, okay, got a bit more health. Demon Hunter can deal 1 million.
Seiko did just even end up taking Rigged Fair Game there, even though he can just see the weapon facing down. And Frenetic's clearly signaled his intentions to play around Rigged Fair Game at this point, but he's also clearly signaled his intention to be an absolute god gamer by picking up that right-hand side skull on turn 6.
Weirdly enough, though, he doesn't know that it's not counterspell, right? So I don't think it's going to come out on curve unless Frenetic's feeling especially spicy today.
Yeah, I would say it would be a weird choice to play the first secret as counterspell, but it came from Evocation, right? So it had to be used that turn if it was going to be used, and then obviously the second secret was lined up into the skull turn. So it actually has a fairly high likelihood, I would say, of being counterspell.
I'd love it. Frenetic just ripped it anyway.
It's so hard, right? Like, obviously I have caster vision here, but you can also make the argument of, like, if you don't just try it here, it's going to get stranded mid-hand anyway,
exactly.
right? So you're just never actually going to be able to play it for good value. So, yeah. I'm glad that he did end up doing it, because I don't have to feel bad about saying it's probably the play when I can obviously see that it was going to work. But, yeah, from Frenetic's position, that's a much harder call to make, and I think absolutely he's made the right call. Ooh. Well, there is a 1 in 14 that Frenetic loses the game on the spot next turn.
By my calculations, you need to chill out.
Wait, what?
He has 10 cards in his hand.
Oh,
My hand is
I thought
full.
Seiko was getting Cthulhu or something. I was like, what are you on about? He's well far away from Cthulhu. How is that right?
Why is that where your mind went?
Because I was staring at Seiko's hand and how kind of bad it is.
Okay. Burned the Ethereal Org Merchant, though, so no great harm.
Oh, look, another skull.
Another skull indeed, and he can set this one up perfectly, dumping the cards with the duplicated Moarg. Very, very nicely navigated turn from Frenetic. Like I said, he had the risk, he had the 1 in 14 of just Il'gynoth appearing off the top and getting burned to the full hand. But 13 out of 14 times, I think he made the right play. Reason being, the card he would have dumped to not burn a card would have been the Moarg, right? And you see how important that Moarg was in hand. Because by holding onto it, he got to duplicate it, use it to clear the board, and then still currently has a Moarg in hand, which is a very big deal.
Also get Sigil of Silence now, so that's pretty nice for him in that it's just not expecting to do much, but just as a card to just get it out the way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Of getting cards out the way.
Yep. Think reasonable to suggest that.
Well, Sigil of Flame wasn't silent. Sorry. Okay, that's fine.
That's just funny. Reasonable to suggest that Seiko being slightly punished for his deck building decisions in this game so far by choosing to go with the Cthulhu build. He has drawn 2 Cthulhu pieces, right? Which have cards that wouldn't exist in his deck otherwise, right? Those could have been Arcane Intellect or Cram Session or whatever else, Refreshing Spring Water, to actually enable him to start getting through his deck. And it's one of my big problems with Cthulhu Mage in general, is it just clogs up your deck, which otherwise feels so streamlined. Feels like as soon as you hit 1 card draw with Mage that you just start powering through your deck so very quickly. Having those big clunky 5-mana cards in your deck usually get in the way of that.
Yeah, it's like having a Ferrari and then putting a roof rack for your bike on top of it or something, isn't it?
Yes. Precisely. That's what they call Cthulhu around the tavern. Old roof rack. That's what he's known as.
I'm glad that I think before I speak sometimes, because I could get myself into trouble.
Wait, you do?
Sometimes, I said.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Okay. Did you think before you said, wait, is Seiko about to win with Cthulhu?
No.
Okay.
Studies, okay.
Spectral Sight.
Oh, but it's good enough.
Yeah. 5 cards remaining for Frenetic. Wow, okay.
I
3 cards remaining now.
There's the
being Il'gynoth.
Full cost, though.
Yeah, full cost. And discount already used on the Moarg as well. He's already used his Fell Screamer discount up, so he's quite limited to the 24, the fair source of damage that I was talking about before, but having done so much chip damage incrementally throughout the course of the game, 24 wasn't enough.
Look at this hand. I don't even want to look at this hand from Seiko. It does nothing.
You win this.
And that's just going to be it. Wow, just Seiko never really got in the game. Frenetic basically drew his whole deck, which in Demon Hunter normally means you win. So yeah, really good win there. Really good start for Frenetic, getting the win on the Demon Hunter. And so far, that's 4 Demon Hunters in a row in Last Hero Standing that have won games. So big deal there. That means Seiko's Mage goes out. That is finished and done with. And Frenetic will be on that Demon Hunter once again.
Yeah, and it looked fairly straightforward for Frenetic, right? But it's easy to forget that there was one extremely clutch moment from Frenetic that game, which was Skull on 6, right? And I know those are, what are you talking about? Like, cast Skull on 6? Of course he did. He was facing down 2 unidentified secrets at the time that could have been counterspell. Right. And I think he correctly identified the situation. It wasn't a guess. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just going to throw this out here and I'm just manifesting that it's not counterspell. I think he just understood that it's the point where if he didn't play it, it's just going to get stranded in the middle of the hand anyway. And he might still be able to draw 3 cards with it at some point, but he was never going to get that discount because it was going to start creeping over into the middle of the hand. So that was the choice that he had agency over. The following one was that he didn't burn Il'gynoth off the top when it was a 1 in 14, which again, that one's just kind of left up to the gods a little bit, but I still think that's the right play for the reasons I described, right? Because that Moarg he had remaining in hand immediately proved to be very important, which was the only card he could have realistically dumped on that.
Yeah, and it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk that you are okay with. It's out of your control, but it's likely to be okay. But here we're going to dive straight into game number 2, and Seiko, with his his Rogue and his Demon Hunter left, decides he wants to play the Mirror.
Yeah. I mean, very simply put, right, if we said to Seiko this game, I'm going to roll a 14-sided die, and if it comes up 1 to 13, you win. Do you think he'd take that? Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Every single time. So that's essentially the play that Frenetic made. And just understanding how comfortable his spot was as long as he held on to that Moarg in hand and ran the risk of burning Il'gynoth.
Oh, any key things to look out for in this matchup, Subtle? Because, of course, both players will be wanting to go for the skulls, but are there any cards that are dumpable versus not in this specific one? Or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, 2 words, hand size. That's basically what this is going to come down to. Generally, your minions are playable because Demon Hunter's not going to get above 30, so you don't need full OTK, right? As soon as you've secured like 1 decent discount, you're basically free to play minions. However, by you playing minions from your hand, you allow your opponent to shoot things at them, right? Like, they can fire eye-beams at them, they can play Immolation Aura, clear them up, if they're playing Throwglaive, as some people do, they can just use Throwglaive to clear the board. So sometimes, it's kind of like those very, very old Control Warrior days, where you didn't want to play a card if your opponent was on like 9 or 10 cards, because it allowed them to get cards out of their hand, and they would have extreme difficulty doing that otherwise. So outside of just turboing through your deck and drawing cards as fast as possible, that's the #1 thing to pay attention to, is trying to end as few turns as possible with minions in play, because that really limits what your opponent is then able to do in terms of getting cards out of their hand.
I mean, you can see an example right there, like no Crimson Sigil runner played. He could have played it first, right? And then did the AoE, but he would still be in the same card situation.
Yeah, I think that one is more about holding the discount for the skull than it is just having a minion in play. I think he's just viewing that as more important. So he can coin skull here and then just has to find 1 dumpable card to drop.
Yeah, that's the tricky bit.
Poor warlock.
There we go.
Oh, yeah,
perfect.
Done. It is just important to point out that differences in decks here. Frenetic running what I would say is pretty much standard Demon Hunter, whereas Seiko is running 1 Acrobatics, 1 Maker, 1 Spectral Sight, 1 Sigil of Flame, 1 Acidic Swamp Ooze, 1 Ethereal Log Merchant, 1 Raging Fell Screamer. I've ran out of ones just to annoy Subtle.
Yep.
1 Demon Hunter.
I was talking about this earlier. I think you'd left the call at this point. I think it was just like Gia and Lorinda that were hanging around. I was saying, like, I feel like this deck from Seiko has been built purely to trigger me because, like, yeah, my dislike of one-offs in deck building, and, like, there's a lot of stuff that's very unique in this, right? Like, you know, 1 Acidic Swampoo's fine. You probably don't want 2. It's a tech card. But it's specific things like 1 Acrobatics, 1 Spectral Sight. Like, surely one of those cards is just better than the other one on average, and you want to play 2 of them, right? But this is Seiko's deck building 101. This is not unique. He does this a lot. He really likes having one-offs in his decks. We've seen it with his Paladin build so far this season. He's also playing 1 Cram Session in his Mage, which is bizarre to me, but he's an incredibly successful, incredibly accomplished Hearthstone player, and this is just how he builds decks, and always has been. So, you know, who am I to question it?
Literally how he made room for Cthulhu in his Mage by dropping a Cram Session.
Yep.
You know, already Frenetic's powered through to only 14 cards left in his deck. Yet again, got a reduced skull on the right.
Yeah, I love this. Just literally every card he can play on any given turn, he's just playing. He just wants space in his hand. He just wants to play Skull as many times as humanly possible. No one yet with any potential game-winning discounts in terms of the Skull of Gul'dan hitting key combo pieces. So the game's still wide open right now.
Tricky, isn't it, here? Because card draw in a vacuum is powerful. But can Seiko handle any card draw or any more card draw right now?
Time grows short.
See exactly the situation I'm talking about, right? Like, Seiko's struggling so much harder just to get cards out of his hand.
Yeah.
Everything he can play just replacing itself currently. Going to draw him back up to 10 again, so he's just going to have to dump the Crimson Sigil Runner, which was a smart pick, right? All the way back when, as I was saying, he didn't play it because he was holding the discount for his Skull. But then knowing that, he also took just the cheapest card, right? Understanding that whatever he took, he was never going to play it for outcast value.
Right.
So he just took the straight up cheapest thing that he could dump out of his hand at some point.
Demons?
Now, at this point, is Frenetic okay playing this Moarg and Skull, or do you think he just works from the left instead?
He still has one... Oh my
Who cares?
goodness.
Ignore me, Sol. Imagine.
Yeah, I didn't get time. I was going to say he still has 1 Moarg, 2 Philosophies in his deck, so he can, if he wants, go fishing, and then if it misses, he could still potentially drop that Moarg. Maybe like take a Sigil Runner or something and try and still wind his way through to that Skull. But yeah, obviously the dream outcome was picking up just a Skull, and now probably intends to play that Skull from the left-hand side instead with easily dumpable cards on the left-hand side of his hand to get that done.
To win. Seiko is going to have a tough go of it as well because his Il'gynoth is actually full cast, or is that just lethal?
It's only 1 discounted Moarg, I believe, right? I don't think these are off Skull. I think this is just the Fell Screamer discount.
Yeah,
I think if they were actually like discounted from Skull and then duplicated with Philosophy, then it would have been lethal, but no such luck. But he does have that edge, right? Like, there are 3 stages of Il'gynoth in this matchup, and they increase in power level. The least powerful thing for Il'gynoth to be is in your deck. The median outcome is in your hand but full cost, and then obviously the most powerful thing is in your hand but discounted. So on that front, Seiko is currently ahead, right? Like, he can actually threaten lethal at any point. Frenetic, if Il'gynoth is his last card, he's going to have trouble getting there.
Honestly, so I was wondering where you were going. I thought you were going to start talking about, acceptance, denial. There's multiple stages of having Il'gynoth.
I mean, you do go through, like the multiples. Whenever like you see Il'gynoth appear on the board when you're playing against Demon Hunter, you do go through it. So it's like, there's no way he has it. No, it's turn 7. There's no way. Well, Moog. Okay. No, I'll stay here. Maybe he messes it up. Oh, I'm just dead. Okay.
Bargaining. Yeah. Maybe he just takes pity on me and let me do it.
Perfect Skull. 8 cards in hand currently, so he can just rip Skull. Goes up to 10. Just has to find something playable to drop.
Does he need 3 Moags?
Demons?
No, but he does need the Moag discount. That's the problem right now. Because he has full cost Il'gynoth, he really wants that Fell Screamer discount on his Moag. Obviously, the first Moag he plays then means that it will consume that discount.
Time grows short.
He's now in extremely good shape because of that 0 mana I-Beam. Actually, he can go Il'gynoth, 0 mana Moag, 2 mana Arcanist, 2 mana Moag, and that's 8. And then play 0 mana I-Beam, well, play 1 mana Fellscream Blast, sorry, to get the Talented Arcanist buff on that, and then 0 mana I-Beam to finish off. I think Seiko is in the driver's seat right now.
What if Frenetic top decks Il'gynoth?
I will confess I have forgotten whether these Moags are really costing 0 or not, and that makes the world of difference right now.
He top decked it, so work it out.
Yeah, Frenetic will know.
I'm guessing if... Wait a minute.
That one's discounted, so he can now get another 0 mana 1 from duplicating the Philosophy, right? And then go Moag. Well, yeah, this should be enough. All he needed was one of the Moags to be discounted, right? He has to get Immolation Aura out of his hand to make the I-Beam cost 1. Does he need the I-Beam to cost 1? He doesn't, right? So he can play 1, 2, 3, 4 Moags and the Il'gynoth. He doesn't have to play the Talented Arcanist, so he doesn't need the the I-Beam to be discounted, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, actually. I think that's right. It made sense to me. Frenetic shaking his head, not happy with anything here. Now he's playing... Wait, whoa. Wait, does 3 do it? That doesn't... Wait, he did it?
It's fine.
He did it, okay. I was so scared of the way he's reacting on camera, because obviously we have the animation. The animations take longer. I was like, is he playing the 4th? Is he doing this?
Yeah. Oh. So you can see exactly what I was talking about, right? He spent 2 mana on Immolation Aura to discount his I-Beam by 2 mana.
2 mana, yeah.
It was completely irrelevant. You just didn't need to do that. You can just play all the Moags and play the I-Beam for free. But
I thought
in the end,
I thought the way he did it, I was like, is he just like hoping the Moags stick for next turn? I was like, what's going on? But he did do the turn, of course. 2-0 so far with Demon Hunter, and that was a little bit tense, that one, Saul, because both players felt like they were so close. It was one of, I guess, the more even Demon Hunter matchups we've seen.
Yeah, it was right on the wire. If Frenetic didn't kill Seiko that turn, he was dead, straight up. So, yeah, I think very, very nicely done. In the end, I suppose, I don't know if I can quite go as far as nicely done in that spot, because outside of just missing lethal, he made about as big a mess of that turn as he possibly could have done. But yeah, you can see the 48 there, which indicates that he does need all of the Moags, right? Because if you take one Moag away from that, it's only 24 at that point. But using all of the Moags was not difficult. He made it a lot more difficult than it needed to be. He did the
bamboozled me.
Thing. Yeah, he did the difficult thing first, right? Obviously, like I'd lost track of how many of the Moags were exactly 0, which sure, but obviously he kept track of that perfectly, which great. And then he understood the dynamic of how philosophy worked, right? He needed to get one out and then duplicate the existing one that cost 0 by consuming the discount. So he then had a real 0-cost Moarg and a 2-cost Moarg in his hand, and then he copies the 0-cost Moarg. Like, that was the hard part of the turn to get right, and he did it immediately. And then the easy bit, he's just like, I don't know. Like,
wait, what do I do with this I-beam now? I'm lost. Here we go, jumping straight
in my mouth. What's happening?
Straight into game number 3. It's going to be Frenetic, of course, on the Demon Hunter once again, going up against Seiko, and Seiko is going to be on the Miracle Rogue, and there is one Penflinger, one Swashbuckler, one Mancrick. I'm struggling because they're the only 2 one-offs that aren't legendary, Sol, I'm afraid.
Yeah. We had this discussion last night, I think, with Gia and Lorinda, and I gave him a pass on the Rogue because, one Penflinger is not unreasonable.
Yes, yeah.
When you're going to play one Penflinger, you just have one spot where something else has to be a one-of as well. And I think Swashbuckler is a slightly weird choice, but, the fact that it is a one-of, I'm not objecting to particularly.
And I'm so weirded out that Rogue just still doesn't play Backstab.
I know, yeah.
I'm just confused.
I know. Imagine your card quality being so high that Backstab just isn't good enough.
It doesn't do anything versus Priest, does it?
The weird thing is, if you put the word combo on Backstab, but it was strictly worse, it was like a worse effect, I think it would be played, right? Like, even if the combo itself never did anything relevant, just making it a combo card so it cycled off field contact, I think it would be played in the deck.
What about if it said, deal 2 damage to an undamaged minion, combo, deal 1 damage to an undamaged minion?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think that would be played. Like, even if the combo effect was strictly worse than the non-comboed effect, I think you'd play it. It's
Deal
really
2
weird.
damage to your own face is the combo effect. You're like, how does that even work?
Yeah.
Someone backstabs you if you combo it, I guess. Here, though, nothing too great. And this is one of those, I guess, adventurous secret passage, I guess, for almost specifically Octo.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't really pay off here for Seiko.
Did not, indeed. And I think, honestly, he recognizes he's in a desperate spot. Like, I would never want to be in the spot in a series of Hearthstone where I'm queuing Rogue into Demon Hunter as my opportunity to win the game, right? Like, not that this matchup is unwinnable or just, 90-10 or whatever else, but this is by no means a favorable for the Rogue, right? I think Demon Hunter generally has quite a lot of time to get stuff done in this matchup. So I think Seiko just trying something a little bit off the wall, just cycling hard for the Octobot, especially with Jandis in his native hand, as you now just see coming back in. Getting those discounts down on Jandis with Shadow Step as well, I think would have been really, really clutch. So worth going for, but doesn't end up winding up.
Simple game plan so far for Frenetic, and at least he has one skull to go off before that Il'gynoth gets awkward in his hand. So there is the small saving grace of having an Il'gynoth in your hand so early in the game.
Yes.
Quiet.
This is honestly not that bad. Against, very resilient classes, this might be a problem, but full cost Il'gynoth with a Moarg and with a Fellscreen Blast already in your hand already. If you're going to offer me those cards, and then there is one skull to the left of them all, I'll probably bite your hand off, because I'll generally feel like that one skull will get me into a decent position where I can at least do 24 with those cards that are in my hand.
So now we know where that saying comes from. Bite the hand that feeds you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reward for offering you a good hand. This is a weird turn, though, isn't it?
Very weird, yes. Good play.
Yep.
It's very close, right? Because you can hear the argument of saying just dump the Immolation Aura so that you can coin Skull. But I feel like we've been here before, right? Talking about how Immolation Aura isn't really a dumpable card in several matchups, with Rogue being one of them.
I also think that you're not in a massive rush against Rogue, right? No. Especially if you have Immolation Aura. So, it's not like the Mirror, where you literally have to race your opponent and get into the combo to win. Like Rogue, it doesn't really put out high amounts of damage if you have a 2-mana clear their board effectively thing in your hand. But this Mancrick's going to help, though, for Seiko. We know that, obviously, Weapon Swing plus Immolation will kill it, but that's still enough to warrant a response.
Yeah, And I think Frenetic, even though he has the second Immolation Aura in hand, is becoming very aware of the fact that, well, this board kind of wants to be immolated, and the following board, I now know my opponent has a 0 mana field contact in their hand that I'm going to have to deal with the fallout from that board coming down as well, which is likely to require Immolation Aura number 2. Options here to use a Fellscream Blast instead of one of the Immolation Auras. That would be getting very fancy at that point. But generally, you don't want to use an Immolation. You don't want to use an Immolation Aura on a board like that, because against Rogue, if you have 2 Immolation Auras, one of them is for the field contact turn. The other one is for Jandis, right? Because they're very effective against both of those things.
Yeah.
Just so happens that Seiko has exactly that hand lined up here, which might just be able to punish the slightly liberal use of the Immolation Aura on that turn. Whoa! Oh, it's too many cards. It's actually too many cards.
Don't care.
You can't do it like Shadow Step Foxy, Replay Foxy, Vanessa, right? That's nonsense. That's just 50 cards. There's no way you can do that. Yeah, seems good.
What if he just Shadow Steps in Neophyte and just says, who cares?
I think 1's fine here, right? Because it blocks the skull. So I think Shadow Step for Jandis maybe might be where his head's at instead. But it's close. I could definitely see it being a Shadow Step target here.
Play it again. Really make him not able to play Skull.
Up to 9 cards in hand. Works out fine. Honestly, 4 mana Immolation Aura, not that bad here.
Yeah. Immolation Aura and then just Spectral Sight, I guess. What am I talking about? I didn't mean Spectral Sight. Hero Power. That's just 8.
Oh, yes, that's what you meant.
It's a common mix-up, right?
Yeah, so easy to make that mistake.
They're both... Look, they're right next to each other. That is the hand of that card.
Oh, no, Raven, I totally believe you. There's no way that you just forgot that Cult Neophyte was in play and just thought you had a million mana. You totally meant to say Hero Power.
How could I possibly
100%
forget
believe.
when I suggested the play?
Yeah, true.
Well, this Jandis, hopefully for Seiko, is going to be an impactful one, because so far the pushes have not really worked out too well. Oh.
How's that?
Oh, wait, no. It's trash. Subtle told me Earth Elemental sucks now, so...
That's literally not what I said. Okay.
No one crosses the uncrowned.
Van Cleave's just coming down as a 2-3 here, really, because that's an Immolation Aura that Seiko absolutely does not want. Yikes.
Alas, poor warlock.
Needs big hits here. Needs things that immediately impact the board. Absolutely not it. Probably going to have to be the coin Spectral Sight here just to make room.
I see.
No, not much going on.
No.
I think once I beam off this, doesn't hit it, so it's going to have to be a Fellscream Blast going on the Jandis and just, you know, praying that Seiko did the sensible thing with the illusion.
Time grows short.
Oh, if this was against me, I'd have still have both minions left. So 12 damage here from Seiko just through minions on board. Does have one Wicked Stab in hand, but obviously we can see not quite enough. Have a way to proc this Octobot though.
Efficient is sufficient.
Plunder some prizes. Probably just finish Kazakus. You could also go Kazakus first, take the Golem in case you got spell damage off the Golem, so you then, like, having the Golem discounted would would be more relevant to go along with the Wicked Stabs and so on. Kind of interesting. Probably not super relevant.
I'm looking for a few good.
He's gonna go one golem, right?
Imagine he has to here.
Too soon.
Million damage going face here for Frenetic, and now he's going to need a lot of help to find his way out of this one from this spot. I'm not seeing it. Philosophy is always a lifeline, because it does mean that you can then commit all of the Moargs that you currently have, and still try and get something done for big burst healing, but...
What is that something for this turn at least? Because it's rough, right? There's just a one fell scream.
Yeah, if he could get an I-beam off the Illidari studies, but you need AoE here regardless, right? Is the problem.
Hey, funnily enough, no Sigil of Flame is actually a big deal so far, right? I actually forgot who ran it. Like, Sigil of Flame is pretty good versus Rogue as well.
Yeah, I could have functioned quite happily as one of his, you know, preserved one of his immolation auras to be able to get him to this point. Tanks A off the Earth Ellie. Just doesn't matter because he ends up full healing anyway. Yeah, pretty sick.
So
that is, what, 4, 7, 10, 14. Alex Straza, 22.
The Wicked
Doesn't have enough mana. Yeah, okay. Out of mana.
Yeah, 2 off, right?
With 1 stab?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 off, I think.
Oh, can I not count?
Not enough either way.
Come, friend.
Let's get Fell Scream Blast.
Oh.
We saw this on the previous time as well.
No one crosses the uncrowned.
I did not respect Van Cleef enough as a card when it was announced. It's just, 1, it's just cool, but 2, it's actually very powerful.
Right.
I'm almost out of cards.
Oh, caught the Neophyte seems pretty good to me, Sol.
Neophyte is beautiful. Yeah, I like this. Most secure possible thing that Seiko could have done this turn. He healed, cleared the board, drew cards, and Neophyted all in the same turn, making it as difficult as possible for Frenetic to be able to do anything on the comeback.
And let's be honest, last turn he was already scrambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
That ain't it. Maybe he won't see the lethal. That's the line. Yeah, got it. Makes sense.
I'm out of
Yeah. I was going to say, well, I was going to make a great joke if it actually wasn't lethal. Of like, oh, the board's full, so Seiko can't play the Alex, which is why he stole the Immolation Aura earlier on, so he could clear off the board and Alex him for lethal, but it didn't matter. He was just dead. And that puts a stop to Frenetic's Demon Hunter domination this series so far. So again, we have another one of those weird matchups where we've just seen Demon Hunter win game 1, Demon Hunter win game 2, taking on the Mirror, but then going down to Rogue, which is a bit of a surprise. So this is not an outcome, at least I expected. I thought Frenetic was going to 3-0.
I for sure did as well, yeah, when this matchup came up, and I think that was the turn. We saw it very first thing in the replay. Good job, replay operator. We saw the clutch turn. I think if I had any criticism, and I'm not even comfortable in my own head whether I agree with the play or not, it was that first Immolation Aura usage. Obviously, it unlocked Skull, and he had a second one in hand, right? So it's about as good an Immolation Aura as you're ever going to get for low value against Rogue. But I even said it before the fact, right? What about if we just use Fellscreen Blast this turn instead and preserve the Immolation Aura? And I think, we saw late on, obviously, how good an Immolation Aura would have been, but it also would have slowed down his game plan significantly because he would have been at least a turn slower unlocking that skull, probably multiple turns slower, because there's still that Immolation Aura there blocking it. So I think that's very tense. But then also, immediately after that, there was just the Ulgra appearing so quickly and just representing so much damage over the course of the game, coming off the top very soon afterwards. So tough one for Frenetic to face. I think he would have felt very comfortable that it was going to 3-0 from the position, but just drew too many combo pieces, really. Didn't have enough of the flexible tools that you need to get yourself through the mid-game as the Demon Hunter. And it's now me switching to Face Hunter Raven. And this is the rare situation where we get to flip the dynamic. Raven, how do you feel this matchup goes?
I actually feel it's all right. I just want to say it's about time, because what are we on now? 6 out of the 7 games we've cast today have had Demon Hunter in them, and now we get real Hunter to actually commentate. So it's about time, is all I'm going to say. But honestly, this matchup, Rogue always has the ability to be tricky, right? Early Octo is a huge problem, but Hunter pumps out so much damage, and Rogue doesn't really want to be plundering like 1/1s that you make, right? But they still get to go face. And that combined with, again, the inability most of the time for Rogue to play around Trampling Rhino because they can't just not play minions, and most of them are low health, leads it to, I think Hunter should feel pretty comfortable in it, especially with those piercing shots towards the end there to finish it up, because again, outside of Alex, Rogue can't really heal. So good start so far here for Frenetic, but does need something to bridge the gap, because an in-hand Trampling Rhino and piercing shot is not really what you're looking for.
Yeah, and Frenetic gives the groan here as he realizes he is about to get brain frozen here, almost certainly. And it's going to be the reality. And no surprise that Raven thinks he has the Einstein brain and that Face Hunter wins every matchup in the game.
It doesn't win every matchup, I'll show you. Hunter barely scrapes most matchups.
But actually, I agree with you that I've felt good on the Hunter side, but I've also felt good on the Rogue side in this matchup. So I think it's a hard one to call for me. I think from the Rogue side, the card I lose to is Coldcard Pack Runner early, because I think it's quite easy to dominate board early as Rogue with how efficient your early game is. And then if they don't have some way to swing back, which is usually just Coldcard Pack Runner, then you can kind of snowball from that position. But when Pack Runner comes down, especially when the Hunter is on coin, it just feels so miserable. It's just so much stuff to deal with in one turn the following turn.
That's it. You literally cannot deal with all the minions, right? And then Hunter just piles on the pressure after that, and you just can't. And then you blink and it's too late. So it's very difficult. But a lot of the time, I felt I lose to Rogue because Rogue's doing the broken Rogue things. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're having a very strong draw, which is fair to say, I guess. But it feels like you lose to all the busted stuff Rogue can do. And Hunter doesn't have busted stuff. We are an honorable class.
Seiko just performed the Dance of the Tamsin, as is tradition. Whenever you randomly generate a Tamsin in various positions, you mouse over every other card in your hand to check what has Shadow Synergy. But what particularly does have Shadow Synergy in Rogue is Shadow Step, which is an incredibly stupid interaction with Tamsin.
I just love the thing that, because it's got Shadow in it, it's a shadow spell. So,
I mean, yeah, kind of makes sense.
Okay, if I had Shadow Fireball, I throw a fireball from the shadows.
That's also got the word fire in it. That's the worst possible.
And which one do you pick?
Well, but it's not called Shadow Fire Step, is it? So this argument is invalid.
I'll choose when my arguments are invalid, so. Here though, Piercing Shot, it's just good to bank the damage. It's just an interesting choice whether he Piercing Shots Man Quick to protect his minions, or Piercing Shots the 1/1 for insane damage.
Mm-hmm. I think in the end, this does make sense. Because I was going to go down the argument, right? He's been winning on board, and he's been winning on board quite comfortably. So the idea of just Piercing Shot to protect that and keep pushing and keep winning on board does make sense. But then if you're going to take that philosophy, just play the other biggest thing that keeps you ahead on board, instead, and just hold on to the Piercing Shot. I actually think this makes quite a lot of sense. There it is. The synergy.
Many options.
Tamsin Shadow Step.
Looking for a few good mercenaries.
To be clear to everyone at home that isn't following along, this is just a meme and it literally doesn't work because Tamsin reads that costs 1 or more to begin with on the hand, so it just doesn't do anything. It's just nonsense. We're just having fun.
Yeah, I was going to bring a serious point then. It does interest me when players play Kazakus and then sit and look at the mana costs. I actually enjoy it a lot. That was my serious point.
How come?
Well, because they've played it and not decided what they want, right? And it's
see.
does playing it change what you want? Like,
Sure.
does seeing the 3/3 on board do anything? I don't know. Here, though, you can see what I mean. That the damage has just already been done at this point. At least it feels like this is a very good golem, though, for just reducing some of that down. Even though it looks like a lot, though, it's still catchable by Frenetic. Mainly because you can patient shot this.
And it's so brutal, right? The fact that it's also now just sat in play on the turn that the Felmor's waking up as well, so it could just potentially be even more lifesteal and interrupt the face attack on the following turn.
True Hunter players have their Felmors go face at all times, so...
That's fair.
Oh,
Get it back. One more time.
I think getting it back's better, right? Surely.
Too soon.
Getting it back, and then you can just 10-woo it the turn after.
Yep. Well. Tenwu is staying? Yeah.
It's
fine.
I was confused. I was like, what? Does it not work with golems? Is that a new interaction?
No. So here we are. It did go face, which is a huge deal for sure. I'm not really seeing any other play here.
Oh, you know what would have been pretty incredible, actually? What if it traded, which it obviously didn't, but we're living in a hypothetical world right now, and then Frenetic piercing shots his 5/1 to remove the golem target in the battle cry and push 5 anyway? Oh,
Amazing.
get me in there. But now Frenetic does just have to, like, play honestly, but I think him knowing that the lifesteal's there, he has to hero power this turn.
You're saying it's not worth fighting to protect the 5/4 because it's likely to just die anyway?
And also, you over time push more, right?
Yes.
Because it's more hero power. So yeah, I think when you combine everything, and if he's playing a 1/1 and doesn't bounce it again, then you have a 1/1 to piercing shot for 5 extra damage, and you kill the lifesteal.
Fair.
So I like this.
Ooh. Plunderer of prizes. Is there a way to guarantee this works and push the 3 from the Mancrick? No, right? The order's just kind of awkward. The order and the fact that the Felmor has 4 health and not 3 just makes it a little bit painful.
I think you can just always start with the golem, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think you just start there no matter what.
Agreed.
Who knows? I think if he kills at 2/3, what if he just whirlwind slams Jandis?
Now you can go Tenwu, that's 2 cards. And then play Octobot even? Yeah, this works out. There's no way to just hold it in hand and make the Prize Plunderer do 4, which is what I was really trying to line up there, so you then just still have it in hand for another go again on the following turn while dealing with the minion, but that just didn't seem possible. Frenetic's going to extract his final revenge on the minion that has tortured him so far this game. Did bank a lot of that damage back again with the piercing shot.
Oh, it's such a tough call.
Let none survive.
Weirdly, I think I would play Mankrik here, even though everything would inside of me is telling me to press hero power. It's so tough though, because like one, I can see Ice Barrier, right, which is just forcing bias into my comments here, but there are so many spells still to draw for Frenetic that can just push tons of damage along with further hero powers next turn, that it hurts to just miss 2 damage.
Yeah, I like playing it too. Obviously, Barak off the top is huge. You can just go Mankrik Barak in the same turn and still be fine if you were to top deck Barak, but that would mean missing a hero power next turn anyway, so you might as well miss the hero power here in that case and just front load an extra 3-4. And there's also like quick shot considerations, right? Like what happens if you top deck quick shot and you just haven't spent that 3 mana already on getting the card out of your hand? Because this now allows Frenetic to go like quick shot into Barak, for example, which was probably the quality of draw that he was going to need to get.
Or even with his hand, right? He can like get towards using it all because he will draw a quick shot more than likely, right? Ugh.
It's not it, is it? Mask of Doom. Gonna clutch it out, and Seiko is very much in reverse sweep territory now.
Oh yeah, that was scary, but honestly, we were talking about the matchup beforehand. It's not often you go up against the deal 3 lifesteal golem, what, 3-4 times? Which was
4 times in total, right? Yeah.
Which is pretty brutal indeed. And also as well, no, I think Barak, although everyone thinks of the Mankrik interaction, Barak guaranteeing you a quick shot and a 1 cost is so big as well for just chaining damage. So yeah, just no Barak as well is of course going to hurt. But that means we are going to at least end this series with a Mage versus Rogue matchup for definitely not the first time today, right? We've had that matchup a couple of times, I think, actually.
Yeah, again, I do feel like it's kind of the iconic matchup of the metagame right now. Both of the decks feeling very effective, very similar, doing very similar things to each other, and I think the matchup itself being very close between the 2 decks as well. Very close series coming down to the wire here, when it looked like Frenetic was going to run away with it for all things considered, but then it was just that super close Demon Hunter game. Like I didn't look close because of the blowout board that Rogue ended up with, but you know, Demon Hunter games kind of look like that. It's just kind of the nature of a combo deck. So the fact that Seiko was able to just scrape out of that one alive with some very like creative plays, it has to be said, going for the double field contact turn, for example, that's allowed him now to be in position where he has the potential to reverse sweep. And I know opinions on Rogue versus Mage are very divided as to where the exact matchup spread comes down in this one.
Arguably with this one, because Frenetic isn't running Lunacy versus the Rogue, is that a positive? Because I've not actually seen many players even go for Lunacy versus Rogue.
I would say it's the kind of matchup where 4 mana do nothing is quite punishing, because your opponent will just get quite ahead on board, right? You can imagine, like, if they've gone Octobot on 2 and discounted a large hand or a reasonable size hand, and then your turn 4 is do nothing, like play Deck of Lunacy, and their response is to put 5 3/2s and draw 6 cards on the board, then that's going to go quite only one way, right? But then you can also just argue that the next card of your deck is Cycle of Hatred, and then you just win the game, right? Like, that's just how Deck of Lunacy works, so who knows?
Well, this looks like an okay opening hand here from Seiko, and from Frenetic. Does get Incantus Flow, does have card draw to back it up.
I love how Seiko just shook his head. Look at your hand, mate. What do you mean?
He's got no way to proc the Octobot. It sucks.
Yeah. To be fair, in Seiko's defense, I did tilt off the face of the earth earlier to this almost exact start. I didn't have the second Octobot, but I played Octobot. My opponent went Incanter's Flow, and then the next turn went AI into Devolving Missiles for 0 when they're only out to deal with the Octobot. So, yeah. I will allow him to tilt.
You know what you got to do, Sol? Just get better.
True.
Wicked stab? It's not even really a joke.
Many options.
What does it achieve, though?
Reduces downfield contact, which I think a 1 mana reduction even on that is pretty important. I guess on the flip side, you could just field contact Shadow Step this turn, which is more likely.
Right. That's the thing. So, like, in terms of like relevant mana to discount, he would discount 1 mana on his Field Contact and 1 on his Kazakus, and he would spend 2 mana on a Wicked Stab in doing that, and then also not have a Wicked Stab, right? Like, I just don't think that maths checks out in any regard. So yeah, I think it's either play Field Contact and, weirdly enough, leave it there, which is a viable option this turn. And then also just the Shadow Step option, which you were discussing, which I think if you want to just, cheat mana, this is the better way of doing it.
Was the God placement in the middle to just say, yeah, combust it, I dare you? 2 Octos, yes. It's like, haha.
Yeah. That is an alpha move for sure. Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, some card draw, Refreshing Spring Water will proc both Ring Toss in hand, and the double Ring Toss could actually prove a bit of a frustration here for Seiko.
Yes. Yeah, particularly when they cost 2 mana and get corrupted by basically everything. It's about as good a curve as you're going to get, though, for Seiko. Obviously, he hasn't actually hit the discounts on his Octobots, but Octobot into Kazakus is about as good as it's going to get.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say, weirdly enough, I like 1 cost again here because there's the Field Contact, right? So you just want stuff to get cooking, right? You're not bothered about, oh, I've got 2 5/5s with Stealth. Like, you don't really care. It's more about just getting this card draw going.
Yep, so ends up taking Divine Shield +1/+1 in the end. Shooting Star is kind of appealing, but obviously extremely awkward against this board state. Refreshing Spring Water draws 3 mana Apexis Blast, 0 mana Devolving Missiles. Yep, this turn seems very in line with the options available to other classes.
Like Hunter. I mean, it's strictly worse than pre-patch, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, no, okay, fine. I was just wondering whether the 0 mana spell damage there actually helped him get anywhere, but it didn't really matter.
Missed. Not going to cause too much of a problem, although the 2/4 is a little bit frustrating.
Time runs out on me.
Oh yeah? No Apexis Blast that time? Interesting. Just going to go with the secrets instead.
Yeah, I think it might want to just do stuff to just shut down whatever the response is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Seiko, that is the correct reaction, my friend.
Because sometimes I feel playing relevant minions actually gives Rogue more to do with that turn.
That's fair.
So, like, maybe the Apexis Blast is worth holding on to. It's just frankly a lot of burn right now, right? 3 mana Apexis, 2 mana Fireball.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, if I was going to Apexis, the Apexis was going face anyway, to be clear. Like, I wasn't going to Apexis the 2.
Oh, I agree. I just mean the minion you have just gives Rogue more to do.
Yes. Yeah, and I think particularly when you factor in that there's a Shadow Stepped Field Contact in the hand, right? Yeah. And you're just giving good targets for, deal 3 damage golems first and foremost if Frenetic has got anything in his mind from the previous game. But yeah, Brain Freeze, Prize Plunder, all that good stuff.
And again, I imagine Seiko's taking the approach of gonna bump face here because of rigged fair game. I don't think he cares about a 1/1, right?
I mean, it's a spell damage 1/1.
What if it's a water elemental? You just can't kill it and it just kills the Field Contact.
Yep. I mean, I've made the point multiple times that attacking face plays around 2 secrets, and it's significantly more than attacking the minion does. So yeah, I'm absolutely on board. It's just so sad. You just kind of have to leave up a Blood Mage Thanos.
Yep.
Probably not even the best thing he can do this turn. You go Font of Power, hits spell damage, then maybe you can divert to Shooting Star. But okay, fine.
Probably just too good, right?
Okay.
Too good, too simple.
Yeah, Frenetic holding on to all relevant sources of spell damage for the Phoenix waking up on the following turn. He's now able to go like Runed Orb, Apexis Blast, Shooting Star to clear any board that comes down. Next turn is almost certainly going to be the turn.
Too quiet.
Seiko with another shake of the head, and I think each shake of the head is bringing Seiko one shake of the head closer to his last shake of the head at this point, because I don't think he is long for this series, Raven.
Yeah, it's not looking too good, is it? Because at this point, especially with that draw, it's hard to even piece together a silly way out. You know what I mean? Like, just look at what Frenetic can do. He can spend like 30 mana in a blink of an eye and not even care. I honestly wonder if Frenetic should just play Mask this turn.
Yeah, I don't
right? You know what I mean? Like, spend the mana, and then he's got the flexible Fireball, Apexis Blast, whatever, next turn.
Yeah, it's 13, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Fireball, Apexis Blast is 11, plus Ping is 12, so he's just straight up 1 damage off lethal with 0 spell damage in play right now. So if he hits spell damage off the Apexis Blast, it's just straight up lethal.
Or Font of Powers, right? He has the mana.
As long as it's cheap enough, yeah. As long as he gets like Lab Partner. Yep, boom! Yep.
Well, Mage ended up doing it. It looked probably a lot closer as a series than Frenetic would have wanted after going 2-0 up. Seiko then looked like he was going to make it all the way back with a reverse sweep on the Rogue, but it was not meant to be, and Incanter's flow strikes again. Subtle, you just can't keep a good flow down.
Not in Europe, you can't, apparently, no. It's a really, really cool series overall, and honestly, a shame that the last game was kind of anticlimactic and one-sided, but you can choose to focus on the other 4 games of the series, which I think were really, really cool overall. You know, seeing lots of Demon Hunter, you know, for me is nice, because I really like the deck, and I get super engaged in the games, but it's also, I think, just a pretty refreshing change, right? Because it's not a deck that we've really been seeing represented in the tournament meta up until this point.
Especially in Europe.
Especially in Europe, yeah, and it goes to show you what rotating formats really does to a competition, where it just allows different strategies and different decks to shine at different points of the week. You know, we saw Token Druid flying the flag for APAC all the way through Specialist, for example, Warlock having its time in the sun, even in Specialist over in Americas, and now